Warning, this podcast has stories of real-life events and true crime that happens every day. These stories may contain adult language and graphic or disturbing details not suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised.
132 in Bush, I've got him at gunpoint. Check the left over, pull that direction on your side.
They're pulling them out.
10-1-1. Advise ready for escape.
Welcome to another episode of War Stories. I'm Tom.
I'm Chuck.
And I'm always glad to be back when we have friends on the show because somehow our friends' stories are always like, we know we're going to get great stories from our friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's weird because this is a friend that I knew prior to ever knowing you. I've known a lot of people prior to knowing you that you're really good friends with and I'm really good friends with, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like Pete,
Right.
like Nick.
Yeah.
And then fucking Walt over here, who's eating away. At least he had the decency to mute himself first.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Well, that's because we told him we'd kick him off the show if he ate.
Yeah. The crazy thing is this man right here, and when soon we'll be able to discuss more about it, but he's cooled me down a couple times working. So that's
Yeah.
and I didn't even know the man.
The very first day that you were on the show, the very first time you came on the show, Walt also came on the show, and I got Walt on the show, and John got you on the show, and then we didn't know you two knew each other, but it turned out you had known each other through law enforcement. So welcome back
for a while.
Walter. Walter's like
Thank you.
welcome. Walter's like an uncle, father to me, but in the way that life comes full circle with a weird like Obi-Wan Kenobi, I was the learner, now I'm the master kind of a way. Walter was one of the people that helped guide me through high school to, ultimately through the process of getting on the job and stuff like that.
Right.
Among other people.
But Thomas was the one who kept me from going off the deep end.
And then, right. But then at the same time, now Walter's retired from his second agency and now is looking to go for a third agency like an idiot. Because he just loves money too much, I guess. I don't know. But
no, it's not so much the money. I want to be able to travel and
you love the things that money gets you.
Yeah. Plus, when it's in your blood, it's in your blood, dude. It's like
yeah. Until it's not in your blood, and then you're like, oh, I'm grateful.
Then you're dead.
How do you want to go back? Not
we had
today's
a gentleman on the show, who had retired, and in retirement, he had worked for 4 different other agencies as your chief. So it's not uncommon for guys to retire and then continue on the service. And his last agency that he's currently at, he has a reserve assistant chief of police because he can't take the full blown, because he already retired from PERS, because their PERS or some weird thing. He can only
limited
be
by the hours.
Right.
Yeah, so they only pay him for half the time, and they get a full fucking chief.
But now, in a way that things come full circle, Walter, in applying for these other agencies, actually asked me to write a letter of recommendation for him. So it's one of those weird full circle moments. Anyway, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And if any of these stories turn out to be as good as I think they are, it's going to be awesome.
Well, thanks. But what I wanted to say though is, being retired is not what it's always cracked up to be. Like I had a lieutenant who retired and who had just retired. He's like, "Oh, what's it like?" I'm like, "Well, remember when you're in 8th grade, maybe 9th grade, and school's out for that summer, and you might have had a part-time job, but you could do whatever the hell you want that whole summer. It's like being able to do everything you want that whole summer, like an 8th grader, but with money in your pocket and not having to work." I don't know. It's just
that doesn't sound terrible. You're selling.
Yeah, but we gotta have a reason to get out of bed every morning. After a while, you get routine.
I've got plenty of reasons to get out of bed every morning, and that's okay. So we have a person in common. All 3 of us, I think. I'm not sure if he'd actually retired before Chuck came on the job, but there's a man by the name of Greg Dawsey, and Greg Dawsey kind of wrote the book on arrested control for Los Angeles and then subsequently many, many other agencies that were taught his method. And Greg Dawsey was also our academy coordinator, and was in such great shape after retiring from the department that we used to call his workout the old man workout, and it was incredibly painful. Well, Greg Dawsey used to give us the Condo and Redondo speech, and I'm pretty sure I've talked about this on the show way back when, but he said, man, you got to have the Condo in Redondo. And Redondo, for those of you who don't know, is a really nice beach town just south of LA on the Pacific coast. And the concept was have something after law enforcement that isn't law enforcement. Keep the friends, right? Keep the people that kept you grounded. You know, for me, you know, that's been Matt and Marco, our friendship over these years. They knew me even when I was a cop, they could tell me, oh, dude, I knew you when we were freaking running around getting into trouble as a juvenile, you know. So don't try and high road me that you're, you know, the man or whatever. And I never really acted like that, but it was nice to have people that kept me grounded. And it's also nice to have interests outside of law enforcement, things like theater. I went back to it after I retired because acting was something I loved, but it would have been weird if I was a cop and then somebody was like, hey, I loved you in that play last week while I was arresting them. You know, great. Here, put these handcuffs on.
Well, to be honest, I applied to work at Tarleton University just as a regular professor in public administration. I got no responses back. Like
no bites.
They look at your, you know, oh, he's a cop, he's conservative, you know. So
well, you're in Texas, that should be fine.
Yeah, you would think so, but there's a lot of hippies here too.
You're in Austin. Huh?
No, I'm outside the Metroplex, which is Dallas-Fort Worth, and you know, there's people with green hair here as well.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, any major metropolitan area is going to be crawling with libs, unfortunately.
So if you go back in time in the Wayback Machine and you access one of Walter's first episodes with our show, Walt spent time in the Air Force, and then after the Air Force, he went and joined the Los Angeles School Police Department, and then ultimately joined
lateral to LAPD.
Lateral, I guess is the best way to say it, to the police department. Does that mic sound better, by the way? I know I was a little teeny minute there. Okay, good. I couldn't tell. I hear it in my headphones, but I don't know what's broadcasting to you guys. So hopefully,
I've been texting. I was like, dude, change your fucking mic, dude. It's you're on your computer.
Yeah, no, you put it. Well, I don't check my texts when we're on the show, but then the one you put in the chat was fine.
You know, it took me 7 years to get hired with the city, being a white man.
I remember. Like, I remember you were going to try to work for LAPD. So, by way of background, Walter and I met because he caught my sister ditching school.
That's hilarious.
And so he had to call my mom. My mom had to come and talk to him. And so I went with, and then when I ended up at that same school, you know, now at that point he was already familiar with my sister and my father being a copper. And so then he kind of told my mom, he's like, all right, I'll watch out for him. And that was it. That was the end of it.
Well, Thomas walked into my office. My door was open in the main building. He walked in and he's like, I'm Thomas. Remember me? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm here and I'm your psychic now. Something like that. It was like, he made it very clear that he was going to be my sidekick and be my eyes and ears, my rat.
I'm pretty sure you said, yeah,
you got outed.
Sure what happened was I walked into your office and said, all right, I'm here. I'm in high school now. And you're like, good, you could be my eyes and ears. I need you to tell me when something's going on. And I went, oh yeah, that'll make me real popular. Because my dad, this is the Rodney King era. My dad used to tell me, when you get to school, don't tell anybody your dad's a cop. Period. End of story.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually got shit from people that knew that I had a relationship with Walt, that I knew him, you know, beyond, like, you know, that we were friendly, and we like, oh, you fucking know the cops and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I ain't telling you my dad's a cop.
Dude, my next door neighbor down the street was a fucking weed dealer, and all my buddies bought from him, and he would not sell to any of my friends once he found out that they were my friends, because I lived 2 doors down from the guy, and then subsequently there ended up being a big ass raid and warrant served on his property.
Yeah. Well, I understand why
So bad.
it's still to this day why you don't tell people you are or were a cop. My neighbor here in Idaho happened to find out, that I'm retired law enforcement. I've got a blue line flag hanging in front of my house because you can actually do that up here and not worry about, your house being set on fire. But
Right,
what
yeah,
you can't do is you can't. Well, let's put it this way: his son was like, "Hey, I got to ask you a question," and this dude's all tatted down, like prison tat level, and he's like, "Hey, my girlfriend, she drove home, and then the cops knocked on her door and said we got to report that you were drunk driving, but she was already home, so they can't get her for anything, right? I mean, like she was totally drunk driving, like just to be honest, but like if she made it home, they can't like catch her for it or anything, right?
Depends on if they have a victim or a witness. I mean,
well, and then she chimes in and she goes, yeah, I mean, and I talked to my parole officer anyway, and he said that not consuming alcohol isn't one of my terms, and I'm like, what going on?
what the?
Don't answer the door.
Yeah.
How about when they knock on your door that you don't answer?
Yeah. So anyway, on to the show, on to the stories. The floor is yours. You've got a couple of things. I asked Walter, I said, what do you want to talk about? And this is what he said. So I'll likely talk about an in custody death, or maybe a pursuit we had with a guy who crashed a Land Rover, or the time a guy didn't do a proper search, and like all these things. So the floor is yours, my friend.
All right, I'll try to stick to chronological then.
No,
This
you
right
don't have,
before
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Well, it helps. It helps in the brain.
So, well, that's
Helps
true.
in the
You're
brain.
old. You're old.
Synapses, yeah. So in about right before I made sergeant, like 2000.
Paint us the picture, though. I need you to paint me the picture.
I will. Okay, West
Yeah,
Valley.
the wordsmith, Mr. Wordsmith.
Right, thank you. All right, so I was working J-Watch, Unit 10 Adams 67.
Working on a robbery homicide. It was a warrant committee in the city of Angels.
Patrolling the West San Fernando Valley in the city of Reseda when we got a radio call of another unit was following a Code 37, which is a stolen vehicle on Ventura Boulevard. So my partner
Wait a minute, hold on, back up. This is a good question. How the hell can an agency that is so like hip to using plain text, plain English, no 10 codes, all that other shit,
then
you
use
still
codes?
call a code 30 like a stolen, rolling stolen isn't, you could just say, GTA or 1051, but instead code 37.
It sounds cooler.
No,
I think it probably goes back to the 40s when they still used a little bit of codes, but they didn't use the 10 codes, but they used codes. You have code 6, code 4,
code 5,
7, code 6 Charles, code 6 Chuck,
code 6 Mary, code 6 Frank.
That's Chuck.
Code 5.
Yeah, code 5.
Anyway, go ahead.
So we get a radio call. The unit gets on the air and he says they're following a code 37 vehicle on Ventura Boulevard westbound, right? And I think my partner and I were somewhere around Corbin and Van Owen. You guys know the area.
Street names don't mean shit.
I know. So it helps me.
In Australia.
Helps me, man.
Okay.
So, middle to the west end of the division. Very middle to west end.
This is like
to the bottom.
This is the part of town where people have money and they go shopping.
Yes. Well, but also this is before they opened the new division, Topanga. So our division went all the way to the county line.
Yeah, upper middle class.
You're in the middle of the division.
Yeah, middle of the division, right? So my partner and I jump in. I'm driving, and we go race. Wait a minute. Yeah, we go racing towards Ventura Boulevard to catch up to the pursuit. And so now we get behind them, and now somehow we end up on another major boulevard, Conoga Avenue, and we're going south of Ventura Boulevard, which winds up in the hills there in Woodland Hills. And that whole area, at the very end of that area, is Mulholland Drive. But part of Mulholland Drive is like dirt, and part of it is unpaid, and part of it goes out to Malibu, right?
Right.
So we get up to the area where it's dirt, and then there's a small little like new, I don't want to say new housing, but a very well-to-do housing gated community, right? So we're racing, and to give you a little background on this guy. I guess this guy was really slick embezzler. Like he would go into a dealership and show them documents and buy cars right and left and walk right out without down payments or nothing, just. And so So he's in this Toyota, oh no, what is it, Land Rover, right? This Range Rover, right? That's what they call. And he's hauling ass. He's probably doing 75, 80 in a residential area, and we could barely keep up in my piece of shit Crown Vic.
Don't you dare call the Crown Vic.
For whatever reason, this one was a dog. So we're pulling up and we're rolling and we're right behind him now. I got the primary units in front of us, and the guy comes up and he's driving on. It's an east-west, like a frontage road that kind of ran along an old railroad tracks that was south of Ventura Boulevard. And as we're coming up, we look ahead, and here's this huge, giant wrought iron gated community on the south side of the road. And this guy, without even slowing down, probably doing 70 at least, crashes right into this gate. This big double wrought iron gate. I mean, it must have been at least 20 feet wide and 15 feet high, like something like out of a cartoon. And so he crashes through and keeps on going. And I look, and by the time we get to the gate's like halfway hanging on the hinges. It looked like a cartoon. It was like, what happened here? And we keep on going, and we're following, and it actually there was only a few houses on the street, and it dead end. But you know what they call a dead end in a rich neighborhood, right?
Cul-de-sac.
Yeah, cul-de-sac. So I live in a cul-de-sac, not a dead end. But anyway, so this guy, he barrels, he doesn't even slow down. He hits the curb of this house, goes up onto like it was kind of elevated on the front lawn, goes up on the front lawn, rolls up and bang, smashes right into like a 4-foot high stone wall, not even a brick wall, stone wall, smashed. Jumps out, he goes running, he hops over a fence. We chase after him, we go over the fence, we get him into custody. Minor use of force, Back then it wasn't a big deal, but
unreported.
So then we go. No, it was reported, but then we go to go impound the stolen ride. You would think, okay, this thing's probably all dented up, and there was barely a scratch on the whole damn thing. The whole front end didn't
stone wall.
Not and the gates too. And nothing. There's like almost nothing wrong with this car. Matter of fact, that the dealership that was on Ventura Boulevard, they were so proud of their Range Rover that they had it on display out in front for probably 5 or 6 years, showing how sturdy and strong.
This was stolen and crashed in a pursuit.
I couldn't believe it.
They didn't want anybody to look at the frame, but they were okay with them looking.
The frame wasn't bad. You could drive it.
Driving down the street like this side.
No,
crab walking.
No. He flattened maybe one tire. That was it.
Really? That's crazy. That's a sturdy ass car.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, they probably built worse crappy now, but anyway.
Now, was the guy methed out or on drugs or something? Because that sounds a little wild. Like,
I don't think so. No, he fought with us, but he was like,
fuck it.
He was like this 30-something-year-old scam artist, con artist. Like, look, you wouldn't even think it was a criminal. He was like dressed nice, and like imagine like wearing a pair of like a pair of Dockers and and a polo shirt or something.
He had to have been all gacked out then.
No, he just looked like a regular guy.
And when he ran like it doesn't sound like
he ran into a wall.
Yeah,
but I can't remember where the airbags went off, but he wasn't totally uninjured. And he but then when you run his rap sheet, which is RAP stands for Record of Arrest and Prosecutions, in case you didn't know that. So he run his rap sheet, and he just had a history of doing the same stuff, grand theft, embezzlement, fraud, but it was always all high end stuff.
How'd you end up onto him? Like how did you?
So there's a guy, the guy driving the primary unit, and in his partner, you probably know Chuck, his partner, Jaime. Jaime. He worked at narco at West Valley.
No. I mean, how did you even get alerted to him? Like, was it a roll? Like somebody ran the plate?
So one of the guys in the car, the primary unit, this guy's like a code 37 magnet. He found stolen all day long, 24/7.
Was it on the hot sheet? And you guys, he just
I'm sure it was. It probably was on a hot sheet.
Or just running.
Yeah,
Just
but
type
I mean,
in
yeah,
every fucking plate.
he had this knack of. He's a detective now, but he had this knack of finding rolling stones. He could probably pick up 5 or 6 rolling stones in a week.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
that's
crazy. And there's guys that are just like that. They'll just be looking, and don't get me wrong, working with one of those guys, you're running 100+ cars a fucking
and you're doing
in
and you're
6
doing
hours.
U-turns. You're doing U-turns
Yeah,
all the time,
but
right?
they're so good. They're like, I see that car, like it's like the ass end of a car, and it's just like it flashes, and they're like, that's it right there. And you hammer down, and they get ready to read that plate, and you read that plate, and sure as shit, fucking G-ride, and it's within the first few hours of the shift, and I'm like, how the fuck
But that's
is that even possible?
That's like your friend who's Dr. Death, right? There's always the cop
Yeah.
who ends up, if there's a dead body, they're
Yeah.
the one that's going to get it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
or a child abuse or a rape, or
yeah.
shit magnet.
Shit magnet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not the shit magnet. They said I was Teflon because I could motherfuck people 6 ways to Sunday and never get a complaint.
Really?
Yeah. Your partner got the complaint instead.
No. So check this. I don't know if I've ever told this story on the show, but so I went to a call. It was a DV, and it came out that the 5-year-old juvenile had went. It was 10:30 at night on the south end of town. As listeners of the show know, it's always the south end. And so I got dispatched 10:30 at night, domestic, whatever. And the kid, 5 years old, left the house, went upstairs to the neighbors, upset and scared, and asked the neighbors to call the cops because mom was fighting with her boyfriend. And so she is a frequent flyer for dope and all this. We knew her. And I get there, and my partner at the time is fresh out of FTO. He's on probation. And he shows up, and because we rolled solo hoops. And so he's still water dripping from behind his ears. We walk in, and I start talking to her, and the male half's already fled, right? There's no DV, it's verbal only. So I'm getting to the bottom of this. And then I finally looked at her, I said, why do you care about him more than you care about your kid? And she goes, what? And I said, why do you care about him more than you care about your kid? She goes, I can't believe you would say that to me. I said, really? Where's your kid? And all of a sudden it dawns on her.
He was right.
It dawns on her. She goes, he's in his bedroom, asleep. And I said, really? Go check. And then it dawns on her that I know something she doesn't know. And so that look, when that sinking feeling hit her stomach, and she goes to check her bedroom, and then she comes running out. Oh my God, where's my son? Oh my God, where's my son? And I let her hang on the hook.
He's in protective custody now.
Right. I let her hang on the hook for a minute, and I said, he's the one who called. He snuck out of the house. You didn't even notice. 10 o'clock at night. He's upstairs at your neighbor's, scared, crying, calling the cops because of you and your boyfriend. And she's like, oh no. And then I'm like, what is wrong with you? I'm going off on her. And the rookie looks at me, and he's getting a little uncomfortable. And he also didn't know the cardinal rule of, if I'm on a call and I'm the primary, you shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And he pipes up and he says, ma'am, I mean, this officer's not trying to say you're a bad mother. And I turned on him quick, and I pointed my finger at him, and I said, you shut up. That is exactly what I'm saying. Anna, and I said her last night, I said, you are a bad mother. You're a terrible person. And she just looks at me, and her eyes go real big, and he's like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. And then she just breaks down in tears, and she's like, you're right. I'm so sorry. And blah. And then I spent the next 5 minutes trying to, convince her to be less of a piece of shit. And then we got the kid back, and we left. And then, I dispoed it verbal only. Right. And then we filed a suspected child abuse report because she's letting her kids escape, and, but
in Texas now,
I didn't take a complaint on that. And he looked at me like, how did you get away with saying that? And he asked me, and I said, dude, if you know who you can motherfuck, then you would never take a complaint.
That's also before body worn video as well.
Well, I never.
Right, the department would have generated that one for you. You wouldn't even have.
Not my department. Not my department. My department didn't go.
Some departments would.
Yeah, some will.
But
they didn't go and proactively search video. Like I said, they didn't do compliance checks or anything like that.
Yeah.
And
So
That
then
was
many
now
actually
agencies
against
now.
policy.
in Texas now, though, if you have dope in your house, and it's automatically a child abuse arrest.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The
Any
most
kinda-
creative arrest for that I ever heard was when I went to lab school, and they were talking about when you're taking down a lab or investigating a lab, you got to get creative. And it was the instructor talked about, I think it was a Riverside County sheriff's deputy. And if you guys don't know who and aren't from the area, Riverside is like
Oh god, meth central.
meth desert, like Breaking Bad level. Like it's awful. Don't go there. But they found a meth lab in an apartment, and the deputy went as far down the hallway as he could until he could no longer smell the chemical cat piss smell. And then he went the other way, did the same thing. Then he went upstairs and downstairs, and he went and he counted the number of apartments that he walked past until he could no longer smell the ammonia cat piss. And then he went and counted up the number of children that lived in those apartments, and he filed that many
Good.
child endangerment cases against.
Wow.
So get creative, boys and girls. There's lots of ways to skin a cat and paper fuck somebody for sure.
Yeah. That's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. But
So I was going to talk
Worth
about
it.
this in custody death that we had.
yeah.
And so it happened in West LA. So one night I'm working. I had a ride along, actually, a friend of mine, an officer who's now passed on from.
And for those of you that
alcoholism.
don't know, West LA is like UCLA, rich
Pacific
people.
Palisades.
Yep.
Pacific Palisades. So
it's on its way to Santa Monica. It's like,
Right.
yeah.
It's really nice. So
Where you expect to get all the lattes.
O.J.
get this-
Simpson lived in West LA.
we get this call of see the man, so there's a guy in somebody's backyard and he's passed out. So it was during Seder, during the religious holiday of Seder.
Oh yeah, and
And-
there's no Jewish people that live in West LA. None.
Yeah.
And the
None.
community, they usually take curtains and they build like a tent in their backyard as this, representative
the
being
temple.
in the, I guess, the temple in wilderness, right?
Yeah.
So this guy basically crashes into these people's backyard, gets wrapped up in the curtains and falls to the ground, and he's moaning. We respond, we get there, and my officers get there, and we pull the curtains off of him, and they roll him over and handcuff him. And all of a sudden they go, "Hey, Sarge, this guy's not breathing." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, let's do CPR. Let's
going in the
let's-
temple. God strikes
let's
people
do-
down for that shit.
let's get an ambulance rolling. Let's get a." So I go to my car and get my CPR mask or whatever, and so the ride along tells me afterwards when I went to go to get my CPR mask, the two officers looked at each other and they looked at my ride along and said, "I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. Fuck that. I ain't doing this. I ain't gonna give this guy CPR." Well, they ended up giving him CPR, but he was already dead. But the nice thing
is that an in custody death when you came upon him dead? And
yes, yeah. Well, here's how this turned out, and it's all because of the internal affairs crap.
wait
So-
a minute, you show up, he's dead. You just because you
How's
cuff
it
a
in custody?
dead body, how is that an in custody death?
I'll tell you how this happened. Okay, so then the paramedics were really nice, and they pretended that he was still alive, so they wouldn't have this dead body in their tent for their high holy day holiday.
Oh,
so they
motherfucker.
pretended he was alive.
Fuck you.
They put him in the ambulance and they took him out of there, right? But he was already dead.
So the
Right.
paramedics
Pronounced
screwed
him-
you over. They pulled the
Pronounced
Disney.
no. The paramedics were fine. They pronounced him, in the ambulance. But so here's what happened. So I called the watchman and I said, "Hey, this is what we have. This is what happened." He's like, "Yeah, okay. No, let's just do a death investigation." I'm like, "Okay," but I go, we kind of like died in our custody. Like, yeah, but we know what
Why
happened.
did you say that?
Because I'm being like, let's try to
Forthcoming.
let's try to check all the
PRT,
boxes.
man.
Let's try to check all the boxes. So I tell the watch commander, I go, well, it's kind of like like an in custody death. I mean, he died just before we got him into custody. He says, yeah, but we know what happened. So we'll just do a death investigation and that'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So the officers actually write in the death investigation report. They didn't let me review it. And the sergeant that signed it wasn't like paying attention. They actually wrote in the death investigation report, we rolled him over and handcuffed him. And then he found out he was dead. So somebody upstairs goes, oh my God, there's protocols involved here. This is an in custody death.
Oh, geez.
Right.
No.
So then, like,
seriously, what is your justification if seriously, you shoot somebody, right? You shoot them, you kill them, you canoe their head. They still tell you, cuff them up. I get
that.
Right?
So here's the thing. Here's what happens. Like 3 days later, I get a call from employee rep section, like the big time employee, like attorney type stuff. And he says, hey, I got to rep you on this in custody death. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, yeah, this guy you guys found, you handcuffed and he died on you. And I'm like, that's not what happened. He's like, okay, well, we'll sit it through. So I sat through this interview and everything. And then here's kind of what happened. So this guy was in 77th jail earlier that day and got released. And then he probably got high.
I have to explain to people that aren't from LA. You're using a lot of inside baseball.
South side.
So in the South End, in the worst area of LA, there's a division called 77th. This is where the cops get shot at by just kidding out their vehicles.
And there's a jail there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's on 77th Street.
Correct.
Actually, the front's on Broadway now. The front of the station now is on Broadway. But so he gets out of jail early that day, and he probably gets all high, and he ends up in West LA. And so in the middle of the night, he starts freaking out, and he starts banging on people's front doors, banging on people's side gates, and he basically barreled through someone's side gate and knocked it over. Then climbed over the fence and then fell and collapsed and died in this guy's backyard. So what happened was, now they basically they initiate this complaint just to cover their ass. The captain does this one cheesy captain, which ended up getting in trouble on his own. But so then we have this unit, special investigation unit called FID, which is the Force Investigation Division, right?
Right.
And the captain of the lieutenant of this unit tells the captain, look, we know what happened here. Don't create the complaint. We know what happened here. Give us time to do our investigation before you make a complaint of misconduct against these officers and this watch commander and sergeant, because it speeds up the clock. And the captain, of course, he don't give rat's ass about anybody, so he files a complaint anyway, and that's how the complaint was generated. So a couple weeks later.
But I still don't understand how somebody can file a complaint on something that's factually not correct.
It's department initiated.
Yeah, but dude, there should be a
time and time again this shit happens.
It's LAPD, bro.
I know.
So it doesn't make any sense.
This is why my dad wouldn't let me go there. This is literally why when he said go anywhere but LAPD.
So maybe
it's ass backwards.
Maybe a month later, I get a call to go to another division in the valley called Van Nuys, to go to Van Nuys jail to basically babysit a couple of senior jailers that had an in custody death in the jail. Mm-hmm. Right. So now I'm sitting there, just spending my time, spinning my wheels, and the same lieutenant comes in, right? And I see him and he introduces himself to me and we're talking, and now they're getting ready to interview the guy I'm babysitting, right? And his name is Todd Chamberlain, who was chief of school police for a little while. So I go, hey Todd, my name is Walt. You might know me. I got. We
don't have to bleep his name out, right?
I don't know. He's retired now.
Okay.
So he's
Walt doesn't give a shit. He's like, I'll dime everybody off.
So he goes, yeah, I know. I goes, I know the whole thing. He goes, I told that captain not to file that complaint, and they did it anyway. But he takes me aside. He says, you got nothing to worry about. We know exactly what happened. Everything's good to go. So then eventually the complaint gets disposed. It goes through adjudication and they look at it and everything. and found there was no misconduct, and they actually gave me a accommodation for attempting to save the guy's life. So here they served me with the notice of the complaint and the no misconduct, and then the new captain that was working at West LA, she also gives me the accommodation at the same time.
That's cool.
It's ridiculous, though. I mean,
for people who wonder why that handcuffing possibly someone who's dead or unknown, but you think that they're dead, why handcuffing them is important. There's a little story that I responded to a call, and it was a shooting in progress at a music venue. Once we get there, we find out that the suspect ran up onto this other person's car, I guess a former gang, because 2 different gangs are going to be there. He delivers a hit, boom, 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 shoots in the car, takes off running. Car behind it takes off, sees him because it was friends of the family of the first car that just got executed. He runs this guy down a fucking side street and plows him in a Dodge Challenger, right? Boom. Dude goes like 25 feet in the air, lands. Dead right there, right? That's what you think. Officers flood the area. We end up getting there. They're like, hey, go sit on that guy. That's the suspect. Don't worry, he's fucking dead. Go walk over there. He's got blood coming from his ears, from his eyes, from his mouth. He's all sorts of fucked up laying on the ground. Not handcuffed, right? I'm like, well, fuck, he's dead. What's the point? So we just sit there. We hold the intersection. And they're like, hey, we're looking for the murder weapon. Is it over there? Is it on the suspect? Is it anywhere near there? Because that's the suspect. I'm like, oh, shit. I don't know. Let me look. Right? I go to pull this dude's fucking waistband, see the gun fucking sitting right there in his waistband, go to touch, and he's like, I'm like, oh, this dude's fucking alive. Handcuff this dude right up there. I'm like, hey, we need paramedics. We have a guy, he's alive. This is the suspect. That's why, because they could still be alive playing possum, or they're fucking knocking on death's door. They come to, they're like, oh, fuck this. And they pull their strap. That's why you handcuff them.
Yeah.
So that never assume. When in doubt, anyway.
Yeah.
So you went from a complaint to a commendation in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
And I'm sure nothing happened to the captain.
No, he became a deputy. He became a deputy chief.
Oh, of course, yes.
And then he was forced to retire because of inappropriate relationships with his subordinates.
No.
Yeah, that's
no. What?
That
can't be true. None of that's possibly true. How is that?
It's a Me Too movement, bro.
I got another good dead guy story.
Okay.
Another really good one. So one night in West Valley, it was a cold, dark, stormy night in the middle of the wintertime. And we get a call to go to the top of Mulholland Drive, at the top of what they call top of Reseda. So Reseda Boulevard is the main thoroughfare that runs north and south about the middle of the San Fernando Valley. And one on the north end is Rinaldi. On the south end, the very end of it is there's a dirt portion of Mulholland Drive, but then Reseda kind of ends like within maybe a half a mile from the top, and there's some hiking trails. So we get up there and we meet a woman. She says, and it was just starting to get dark. It was just about dusk. And we meet this woman, a middle-aged Hispanic woman. And she says, well, I was hiking with my friend. We got about halfway up the hill and he keeled over dead. Like, okay, when did this happen?
Yeah.
Oh, about 2:00 in the afternoon. And it's now like 6 p.m.
And he's just up there?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she did have to hike back.
It's a 10-minute hike downhill. So we're like, okay. Amazing. So this is a really inaccessible area. So what we did was we called up LA Fire came with their helicopter, and they winched the guy down halfway down the trail. We had to hike down the trail from the top to get to him. And then we had a helicopter winch the body up. And then so now the LA Fire helicopter has the body. And they're like, hey, well, what should we do? Should we take him to Northridge?
So yours, guys.
Yeah, all yours. It's like, do you take him to Northridge Hospital? And we're like, no, the morgue's not going to take him there. He didn't die at the hospital. They're not going to take him there. Well, where can we take him? We don't want to sit out here in nowhere view waiting for the coroner, right? I'm like, take him to the top ramp of the parking structure where the helicopter pad is, and we'll have a unit sit with the body up there.
Dude, at West Valley Station?
Yeah,
At the
I
top
made a
of the
decision. I made a decision. This is what we're gonna do. So we did it. So we dropped. So they
have a plan, right?
They landed. They unloaded the body and they split. And so when we're making notifications, and I call the captain and I go, "Yeah, this is what happened. This is what we're doing." He goes, "Well, why didn't you take him to the morgue?" I'm like, "Because the morgue's not going to take him. It's not their body, and we're not going to sit up in the top of the mountain waiting for the coroner up there. Might as well just wait at the police station." So that's what we did. And I made a command decision. I made, this is what we're going to do. You don't like it? Maybe you be here next time and make that decision. Right? So then here's the story part. Why did this lady wait so long to call us?
She wanted to make sure that motherfucker was dead.
Okay, that's good. What's your answer to that? What did she wait
Humpty
so long?
Dumpty was pushed.
Okay, good. So it turns out it wasn't her husband, and he wasn't her wife. They were lovers. They're going to meet to bump fuzzies up on top of the hill. And so she didn't know what to do because she couldn't call.
He had a heart attack while they were bumping uglies?
Yeah. Something like that.
His dick's all out and shit.
So
why is his pants down?
She couldn't call her husband, right? And she wasn't going to call his wife. So, that's why she didn't know what to do for like 3 hours.
I'm surprised that she even called.
Hey, I was up for a hike and I saw a dead body with his pants down.
Because when you can't, when you lie, you have to make you have to insert all these different facts.
Oh, she was inserting facts. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what I mean? When you lie, you can't when you create a lie, it unravels. But when you tell the truth,
and that's because most liars go with something complicated. They never go with something simple, right? Like
dead man tell no tales. Just walk away.
You can tell the truth 5 different ways, and it still comes out the same. It's the truth. It's what
that's right. That's the other thing. Like, she didn't have to tell anybody shit.
No, she just went away.
Fucking right. Coyotes would have had had a field day with that.
Like, he's just a missing person at that point.
Except his car's parked right there.
Well, yeah, they'll eventually find him.
They'd eventually figure it out. Actually, her DNA is probably in the car.
Eat the dick.
Yeah, whatever.
In all reality,
yeah.
That's why that was the one we talked about with Jay when we were talking about people taking their pets out with them. And just remember, if you leave your pets alive and you die, they will eat you.
Yes.
Yeah, dude, I had a guy wait for forever to report of home invasion burglary where he was tied up.
That's robbery.
And I'm sorry, home invasion robbery. I'm sorry, dude. Yeah, it's home invasion robbery.
Yeah, Chuck.
Yeah, my bad.
You didn't use the right words in front of
I didn't.
Almighty Walter.
Yeah, it's okay.
I got my pencil out.
So I've been out of the game for
my red pen.
Yeah, he's still a supervisor at heart.
So this fucking guy was in a different neighboring area that we don't necessarily cover, but for something like this, we can do a courtesy report. And so I ended up working the desk one day, and I'm sitting there, fucking twiddling my thumbs. This dude comes in, he's like, "Hey, I just wanted to report a burglary or a robbery," whatever the fuck he said. And I was like, "Okay." They always mess it up, and I'm like, "Okay, what happened?" He goes, "Well, I was just sitting there in my house off of whatever street. These 2 guys with masks come in. They tie me up, they beat the shit out of me, and they take shit from my house." And I'm like, "Okay, when did this happen?" He's like, "I don't know, probably around 10 a.m., let's say." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." It's like 7 p.m. I'm like, "What took so long for you to report this?" And it happened over there. I'm like, "Just to let you know that we're not your community police station. That's your community police station over there. But because you are reporting the fucking felonious crime, I'll fucking take it."
I'm gonna take the face page and I'll forward it. Blah blah.
Right, exactly. But and I had to do a crime broadcast and everything. And I'm like, "Fuck me, man." All right. I'm like, "Why did it take you so long?" He's like, "Well, I was fucking tied up in my house. I finally got free."
But then why did he get these guys?
Why didn't he call 911?
Why did you call 911? And he's like, "I just thought that they were gone and I should just come to my police station." I was like, first of all, you fucked up everything.
You're right. Like, you don't have to call. 911 is for emergencies. The emergency is over. You know what?
Yeah,
but I still had to do a crime broadcast.
See, the emergency's not over because they not not that they were
They could be
there,
in the area.
but a lot of people make the mistake. They see a guy breaking into a car and there's no other humans involved. So they think it's not an emergency because there's somebody's life is not in danger. And there's crimes that happen all the time that people will not call 911 for because they don't think it's appropriate when it is appropriate because it's a crime in progress. And we do a terrible job of educating the public about what the crime in progress is as opposed to a cold crime or, a stale misdemeanor.
I still subscribe to the advice that one of my favorite salty officers that was a mentor to me, Jim, out there in Tennessee. This one's for you. Whenever possible, rule number 1, whenever possible, arrest the RP.
That makes my day sometimes, dude.
So for those of you who don't understand, depending on your agency, they will call it PR for person reporting, or they'll call it RP for reporting party, or
both. Sometimes at the same time.
Sometimes, and then the East Coast even has some other things. Not per complainant. But if you call the cops, right? If you're the person that calls the cops, and let me back up. If you're the cop responding to somebody who calls the cops, and you see an opportunity to put the person who called the police in handcuffs and arrest them, you do it. Always do it.
Yeah.
Always do it. Mm-hmm. It's the joking thing to say is that'll teach you to call the cops next time.
Right. For sure.
That's how I got an attempt murder right there. She called. Yeah. She attempted to murder her boyfriend, stabbed him in the fucking back a bunch of times. Because
I told you about go ahead.
She threw out that she was being raped, so we hook him up, and then come to find out, she just went batshit crazy and just started trying to kill him, and he was trying to run away. And he's running down the street as she's stabbing him, fully clothed. So they were like, we got to handcuff her. Let's go handcuff her. And then she got so mad, we arrested her on attempt murder charges, and she was freaking out, dude.
Well, I mean, I told you the one where the woman called. I wasn't on it. I wasn't on the call, but the woman called the cops to report a domestic disturbance. And she was telling the cops that her husband was in bed when he should be helping them look for a new place to live. Did I tell you this? Husband's in bed, needs to be looking for a new place to live. They split the couple up, and the female half says, he's in bed, and I go in there and I was telling him we have to find a new place to live. We're getting evicted. And he got so mad because he was trying to sleep that he kicked me in the knee, and I have a red mark. And sure as shit, she had a red mark. And so then the officers, go to talk about what the stories were. And the other cop says, so, we hook her up for DV. And they go, no, we don't. And then, yes, we do. And the guy goes, no. He says, what do you mean DV? He says that he's lying in bed and his sister comes in and starts yelling at him because they need to find a new place to live. He works.
We had a few of those.
and she's like, wait a minute. They go back to the girl and they say to the girl, is he your husband or not? And she goes, well, it's common law marriage. We've been together for like 7 years. He said, okay, but like live together, like husband and wife, like romantic couple. She goes, yeah, but we're not legally married. And the cop says, well, because he says you're his sister. And she goes, well, does everybody have to know our personal business?
Yep.
And it turns out they had one parent in common. They had the same, I believe, mother.
That's disgusting.
So one night working, of course it's a West Valley caper, but one night we're working and we get a shots fired call on, once again, Reseda Boulevard in Tarzana. So when people that are buying homes,
Daniel LaRusso lived in the Karate Kid.
So exactly. Yeah. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He
lived off Sataquin.
He lived on Sataquin, in Tampa.
No, I'm not talking about the filming location. I'm talking about in the script.
Oh, yeah.
Walter is the enemy of fun. If you get anything
hold on,
factually incorrect.
Let me finish. So, hold on. So a lot of people think when they look at the zip code 91356 Tarzana, they think, wow, yeah, expensive homes and everything.
Nobody else that's listening to this show but you thinks that. Just so you know, zip codes mean nothing to this audience.
But along Reseda Boulevard going towards Ventura Boulevard going south, it's a bunch of apartment complexes with Section 8 housing and all kinds of crap.
Yeah, right? Reseda's not a great area.
Well, this is Tarzana, though. Oh, this is Tarzana. So we get this call of shots fired. We get Reseda South. We get
Hatteras.
we get had her ass, but she got away. That matter of fact, that's where it happened. So we get this call. Yeah, we get this call. This shot's fired, right? And we get there, and we find a guy, a victim of a gunshot wound, and he's got a couple of shots in his lower back and then in his ass. And then we got the woman in custody. So what happened was this guy actually turns out to be another division detective, a Wilshire division, a vice detective, and he was known to be a player. So they're in their condo off of Hatteras one night, and she gets pissed off at him because he's got a bunch of money in his wallet that she doesn't know about, and a bunch of phone numbers for some girls she doesn't know about or whatever. So she shoots him while he's laying in bed. Then he gets up in his underwear, grabs his 2-inch .38 backup gun, and goes running out of the condo, running down the street. And then she gets into their car, and she follows him on Hatteras. And then she tries to run him over at Hatteras and Reseda at a bus bench, almost killing some lady waiting for the bus. It was like at 9 o'clock at night. So then we have two crime scenes, basically, because then she starts shooting at him there, and then he turns and fires back. So we have basically two crime scenes, right? And so now he ran along the sidewalk on Reseda, and so there's a big blood trail and everything, right? So, but now, he survived because he was so fat that the bullets didn't penetrate any of the vital organs. So they take him to Northridge and they fucking strip him down and they go, the only reason he's alive is because his body fat stopped the bullets. So then, we pull up the video and everything, right? And because there's some video from that street corner, one of the, for whatever reason, I don't know why, and then I'm standing out there and I give a public safety statement for the FID investigators. And, when these guys come out, they act like they're like God's gift to investigations. I mean, they're like, where's the red tape? I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about, red tape. We have yellow tape. Why isn't there red tape on the inner crime scene? Well, what crime scene training did they teach me that one? Oh, it's a new thing. We just started. Why are you asking about me, lady? So I'm standing there, and they all come around to give a huddle, and I because I got a public safety statement from the guy, right? For the shots fired. Nobody that he knows of else was injured, what direction he fired, those kind of things before they wheeled him away. So I give the speech to these detectives. There's probably 10 of them standing around me. And then the crime scene photographer shows up, and he's like, "Hey, Sergeant, can I start taking pictures of these blood stains, the blood trail?" I'm like, so I called the main investigator and said, "Hey, the photographer wants to take pictures." Yeah. Hey, the photographer wants to take pictures. They probably have 15 huddles over a 30-minute period. Yeah. We'll get to him. We'll get to him. Hey, the photographer wants to take pictures. Yeah. And they kind of just brushed me off, right? And now they're still doing these little huddles. Then the sprinklers come on at the apartment building and washes all the evidence away.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Because these guys are so busy with their protocols and their clipboards and their we're so important that we got to fuck up the crime scene.
And let me guess, as soon as that shit came on, they started getting all angry at everybody else except for themselves and freaking out and telling everyone to hurry up and rush and get that shit turned off. Yeah. Make it all about everybody else except for fucking them.
And then there was a big issue about when the cops, the officers recovered the gun from the officer who was shot. They unloaded it and put it in the trunk instead of just leaving it, in the trunk of the police car, because now you tampered with the evidence, that kind of crap. See, but that's what happens when you have a big bureaucracy. You get a huge disconnect. But it's not going to get better.
It's a culture of you can call it big dick syndrome or tiny dick syndrome if you want to go the Napoleon route, or Napoleon syndrome. It's a lot of guys, that I think they get this ego, and it just carries them, and the ego is now their whole persona. I'm fucking major crimes, or I'm fucking I'm a freaking, what is it?
RHD. I'm an RHD.
RHD. Those guys, some of them are really humble and some of them are just fucking assholes. Like, well, I'm RHD, yeah, fucking blah, blah, blah. Coolest dudes, though, and they know they're humble as fuck, and they're probably some of the best investigators out there is SIS. Those motherfuckers.
I knew you were going to say that.
Are cool as fuck, down to earth, best dudes ever. You can ask them, you can pick their fucking brain. They're just happy to talk to someone. They are like the misfit
they sit around by
kids.
themselves on
Exactly.
stakeouts all day long with no one to talk to,
dude.
And just
they're lovely people. and you know, the worst ones I've ever seen are the homicide dicks when they come out. Those guys, I don't know, and gals, but mainly it's just men. When they come out, they have the biggest fucking chip on their shoulder, and it is crazy.
Wait, Chuck, wait, that's because they're at the bureau now. When they were at the divisions, you knew
totally different.
You knew your homicide D3s, you knew your homicide D2s. West Valley was famous. There was a guy named Rick Swanson that was just, I mean, a famous guy. Your dad probably knows him, Tom, for sure.
Okay.
These are the guys that mentored to me when I was a young school cop. I mean, these guys knew their stuff, and they were humble, like you said. They were not standoffish at all. They when they came out, they would find out what you needed. You know, hey, yeah, we have this crime scene, but hey, what do you need, officer? You know, I know they probably left you out here in the corner somewhere. Do you need anything from us? You know, just make sure I get my crime scene log, sir. You know, that's it. But
kind of like being buddies with your night watch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, before Bratton, we didn't have night watch detectives. You know, so go figures. That's one of the things he gave us. So hey, I was teaching yesterday at one of the colleges, and I was doing scenarios. It was like a theft investigation scenario, and I got to tell you, the quality of the next generation of police, it's
bleak.
Shit.
It's mixed. It's mixed. We had a couple some really good ones. So we had some really good ones. Couple of ex-soldiers and ex-Air Force and Marines that were hired by these smaller agencies. You know, they're all going through this, you know, like Thomas went through like a regional academy. Yeah. And then there's a couple of guys that are like pre-service, that the guys that pay for their own academy training. And then, and so I've got this room, I'm doing the scenario, I'm kind of running the scenario. I got two of the cadets as role players, and the two cadets come knock on the door, and I go out there and I tell them the scenario. And I look at one guy and he's completely squared away. He's in his mid 40s. And I'm like, this is not your first rodeo. He says, no, I was a deputy and I left and went to the feds and I'm back, but I got to get I have to go back through it again. So he goes, I'm squared away. And I'm like, and I'm talking to this other guy, and he was a soup sandwich. Just looking at him was a soup. He looked like, what's that Napoleon Dynamite? He looked like that in a uniform, you know? Gosh. So, cause nowadays when they do scenarios, we pat everybody down for guns. The role players, everybody gets patted down. So they better be. They go to pat this kid down, and he pulls out, and like, what the hell is this? It's pointy, and he pulls out, and it's like a cake comb, like a bro comb, you know, with a big pointy end, and then a comb. Oh. I'm like, this kid's just some white dude with like thinning hair, and I'm like, I look at him and go, what do you need that for, man? You might as well just shave it off now because you're going to lose it. And he kind of looked at me. So this same kid, as we're going through the front door of this classroom, the senior, the experienced guy looks at me and goes, and he points at him and goes, keep an eye on him. And I'm like, okay.
He's going to go fucking
and so I told every one of these guys, because basically the scenario was, it was a shoplift suspect, guy changing tags on stuff and buying something else at a different price and walking out. So I tell them, hey, everybody, first thing you want to look at is, besides that you have a crime, is you want to have control of your suspect. So I told my role player, hey, get up. If they don't say anything to you or do anything to you, get up, walk around, pace, start talking, this is bullshit, you know, all that. So some of the students did really well. They went right in and took care of it. Some of them waited a little bit. But this deputy went right in. He hooked the guy up right away. The whole time he's doing this, this kid's standing there going with his notebook, asking the loss prevention guy what's happening. He's not even looking at the suspect. I'm like, you're dead.
Yep.
You're dead. And this is the quality
that they're not backing me up. I'm glad I'm not out there.
The interesting part about it is there's a lot of good agencies here, but there's no camaraderie at all.
Really?
It's weird. It's really weird. It's like, the big agencies like Fort Worth and Dallas, they have a rivalry, obviously, in the county sheriffs and the local PDs. But some of these agencies, they're only fielding, 15, 20, sometimes even only 5 officers.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
These small.
I know Grand Prairie is another decent
Prairie.
agency out there.
Grand Prairie, yeah.
Prairie.
Yeah. Grand Prairie. So like my buddy, I met this guy at the college when I was taking my courses. He was a New York cop for 20 years, as he was a sergeant for 15 of them. So he got hired by Lake Worth PD. He's the one who basically encouraged me to be a reserve there. He got hired in July as an officer. They just made him a lieutenant.
Yeah.
Well, shit.
The commander encouraged him to apply for the lieutenant spot. I helped him write his resume. I helped him do like a project for him. And he's my best buddy now because I don't have a lot of friends here. And
right.
Well, you just give yourself time.
I know.
You'll be pissing people off before long.
Yeah, I know. but that goes back to what I was telling you before, is being retired and moving away from where you live. I'm like, yeah, there's some coppers here that I knew from the job, but they weren't my partners.
Yeah, who are you telling? I moved away like 3 years ago. I had to make all new friends. Like
I know.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard, but when you end your career and at the same time that happens, you're kind of like stuck a little bit.
Why do you think that what's his face? George C. Scott ate his gun in The New Centurions right after he retired.
Same thing. Yeah.
So that's the condo in Redondo, boys and girls. Have the condo in Redondo. Walter, thank you for coming back. We got
more. We got one more thing.
But what can I run my show? Can I run my show? Or you know what? It's cool. Here we go. Chuck, Walter.
Suck.
I guess it's just you and me now. So what are you going to do?
I just want to dedicate the dedication.
Good.
The dedication.
So as always, we have our dedication. And Walter, we were going to ask him if he has one, but he clearly does.
I'm already on it. So 2 weeks ago, a Fort Worth sergeant got run over by a DUI driver, and then last Thursday, a Dallas officer was shot and killed, ambushed in his car.
We dedicated. You clearly don't listen.
Well, maybe I missed the last episode, but so Darren Burks, Darren Burks, the Dallas Police Department.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I didn't know about the drunk driver run over one though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll give you his name here in a second.
And there was also a Phoenix police officer.
That's like a couple days ago, right?
A couple days ago. So police officer Zane Coolidge succumbed to gunshot wounds sustained 3 days earlier while responding to reports of a larceny from a motor vehicle near the intersection of 16th and McDowell at about 6:30 p.m. As officers arrived on scene, suspect fled on foot and jumped the fence into a backyard. The man then opened fire on officers, striking Officer Coolidge and a second officer before being taken into custody. Officer Coolidge was transferred to the local hospital where he remained until succumbing to his wounds 3 days later. He served the Phoenix Police Department for 5 years.
Yes.
So that sucks. And then did you have the names of...
Yeah. Hold on. I'm just pulling it up right now. Fort Worth officer Sergeant Billy Randolph killed in the line of duty. I went to his memorial service. So rest in peace, Sergeant. We got it from here, right?
Yep. Rest in peace, brothers. We got it from here. And I think that about wraps us for this week. Yeah. Chuck, what do you got for us?
I just want to say thank you all for today for listening. Thank you, Walt, for coming out. If you already follow us, please like and share our posts. If you don't, please follow us on our Instagram at war_stories_official and our Facebook at War Stories Podcast. You can also go to our website at www.warstoriesofficial.com and grab some gear. I know there's one person out there. I owe you some stuff. I got sick. It's been busy here. I got sick and then I didn't want to pack it. So you're going to get a free shirt. You're going to get a free patch.
Yeah, we did forward his email to Chuck. And Chuck can't give you COVID through email, so he did.
You're going to clean it up. So we're good and testing negative now. So today's, good day. Yesterday was the first day I tested negative. So we're good to go. So yeah,
I don't know if they just spread
go to
rumors.
www.warstories.com, grab some gear. If you want to be featured on the show, you can go to booking.warstories@gmail.com and send me your info and I can get you booked. We're always looking for law enforcement, corrections, dispatchers, fire, medics, veterans, but also nurses. If you have a friend who you think would be a great fit for us and they have some stories, please go to booking.warstories@gmail.com, get us linked up, send them our info, show them our Instagram, show them our Facebook, show our podcast, link us up, and introduce us, and then we can get you booked.
And Jerry, I got your email and I didn't want to read it because I want you to come on the show and tell that story. So Chuck's going to be reaching out to you. I forward your email to him.
Awesome. And again, if you want to share a story, but you're like, I don't know if it's worthy enough to come on, shoot the story out, write it out, and we'll tell you if it's good. Hey, come on, share it. But if you're like, I absolutely don't want to, we can always read them anonymously on the show. Thank you for the support. Stay safe.
And until our next episode, come home with your shield or on it.